Interesting thought process.
That's a great question. Oh, that's really hard. Oh my God, I didn't realize it was going to be like this.
Wow, that's a good question.
Another good but difficult question.
Welcome to Casual Conversations with your host, Mike Oppenheim.
Hey everybody, this is Mike Oppenheim, and thank you for checking into Casual Conversations, the monthly podcast where we kind of do whatever the hell we feel like. I'm going to do a reverse interview, which is always fun. So Nema Semnani, who actually I interviewed, his podcast will come out at the end of this month. You will hear this before that. So it's going to be funny because this comes after that, but you are going to hear this first. And so anyway, he is here, he is live, and he is ready to interview me, so I'm just going to pass the mic.
All right, Mike, let's get right into it. You ready?
Yes, totally.
Okay. I'm going to start off with a very easy question. If you could be any animal on the planet, you can't pick human, and you can assume the best case outcome for that animal, which animal would you choose? So before you answer, you can't be like, I'm a grizzly bear, but I can talk and I have a talk show. But you can be like, I'm, the most badass lion in the world, and I have an entire, harem of lionesses. That does qualify.
Cool. I definitely know that I would have to be either a water animal or a flying animal because those are two experiences I want that I can't get on land. And then I'm tempted to go with the octopus because I love them, but I just found out they live like 5 to 7 years, whereas I thought they lived like hundreds of years just because that was my stupid assumption. So I'm going to go with an animal that can swim underwater but also lives long, and so I'm going to pick one of those giant sea turtles.
Oh, wow. So, interestingly enough, that's not one of the answers I was expecting you to pick. I've asked this question a lot of people. Fun fact, the only animals I don't eat for ethical reasons are octopi and cuttlefish and squid, and that's just because I'm a scuba diver. And after you've dove with these animals, they're just, to me, too cool to eat, which is also why I don't make friends with pigs because they're delicious. I don't want to find out that they're like super cool and nice. But you have a great answer. A lot of people will pick like eagle is a common one. Like a great white shark's a common one. One of the big cats. So I thought you were going in the direction, and then you threw a little curveball when you went with sea turtle, and I thought you were totally going to say a shark or like an orca or something.
Yeah, it's funny because you asked me on the spot and I never think about that. So it was an interesting process in my head as I was going through options. But I love, because, you said you went scuba diving. I tried to do that once and it was like terrifying for the reason of oxygen tanks and stuff. And so I swam up too fast, didn't get the bends, thank God. But that was my one and only. But I love snorkeling and I love being underwater. It's so fun. So
yeah, I rarely try to talk anyone into scuba diving. It's one of those things where you can like it and then learn to love it. However, I've still yet to meet anyone who tried it, didn't they hated it and went from hated it to liked it. It's for the various reasons. If someone has an issue with, claustrophobia, someone has an issue with breathing, then I just say, don't even worry about it. There's way other experiences on the planet beyond just scuba diving. So back to the animal question, one of the reasons why I like to ask that question, and there's no wrong answer, obviously, is did you kind of pick the animal you picked because you felt like, to some extent, it was a representation of your personality, or was it purely just because, turtles seem cool, they can swim underwater, and it's kind of funny that you picked an animal that can basically scuba dive for its entire life, and you yourself aren't really a scuba dive fan, so it's interesting. So why did you pick that animal?
Yeah, definitely my personality. I love, I wish I had a shell. I wish I could just go in it. I wish every time I traveled, I had my home with me. So that's a huge reason. And then when I lived in Iowa very briefly, my parents lived there for 10 years, so I would visit a lot, but I was doing rehab there, not for drugs, for a car accident. And it's not a sea turtle. It was like a lake turtle, but I found out it was 100 years old, and it was just so cool. I would see it every morning, craning its weird neck, and I just kind of fell in love with it. And then they snap at people, and they're kind of good at defense, and they don't get messed with a lot. And then the fact that they live so long, I do not want to live forever, not even at all, but I do want to live a very long time. I just think seeing, life is fun. It's interesting to see what happens. So that it definitely does reflect my personality.
Interesting. So now a sea turtle, just based off of, now I don't know any sea turtles personally, so I don't like know what's going on in their head. Maybe they're, maybe they're screaming on the inside. No one knows. But let's assume they're not. They tend to be pretty solitary, and I would even say like introverted creatures. They literally have a shell they can go into. Not necessarily sea turtles. They can't, but the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, you, among other things, are a podcast host. So are you an introverted podcast host, or are you an ambivert? How would you describe yourself when you're not interviewing people?
Yeah, so until I read like enough, one of my jobs is book indexing, so I just read like really boring nonfiction books and I get paid for it, and I learn a lot of interesting facts. And so something I found out like much later in life is that I think technically in the most current DSM, diagnostic of psychological whatever manual, yeah, because the S stands for psychological, I'm sure. But anyway, they classify an extrovert as someone who gets energy from being around people, and an introvert as someone who is drained of energy after being around people. And I am definitely drained of energy after being around people. I was a performing musician for almost 10 years, and like I'm just so tired after being on stage. So I'm not bad at performance, and I'm not bad at speaking in front of crowds or anything like that. If anything, I'm good at it, but I do not enjoy it, and I have to like prep for it, and then I just want to like go away for several days afterwards. So I am introverted by that definition.
Hey everyone, that's it for the free version of this podcast. If you want to hear the full one, just head over to mikeyop.com and become a premium subscriber. That's MIKEYOPP.com. Thanks for listening.